feminism has conditioned black women to view black men as the enemy.
It has. Feminism was financed by the CIA. Gloria, what was her name? Gloria Steinem, I think she was.
Right, yeah.
Mother of modern feminism, because traditional feminism goes back to the 1800s, right? With Susan B. Anthony and those white supremacists. But Gloria Steinem was a CIA agent. They financed her. Her first feminist magazine they paid for.
Mm.
The CIA brought feminism into the white household to get the woman out the house, and into the black household to turn the black woman against the black man.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. To scapegoat us for problems caused for her by white supremacy.
So, obviously, a big thing, obviously, we spoke about the gender wars, earlier. Obviously, there's a lot of conversation nowadays about, the value of what a woman brings and the value of what a man brings in a relationship. And now there's a lot more rhetoric from our women that we hear is, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man, right? So,
That's pain speaking, though.
right.
Because most black women know they will never get a man. A black woman can have sex whenever she wants.
Right.
Because she's beautiful. She can have a bed mate, but to have a soul mate, she may never get. I have two daughters, 11 and 20, right? My oldest would be 21 this week. Statistically, right? There's a strong chance my daughter could be one of those. I hope she's not. She could be one of those who never get a husband, because only 1 out of 4 gets a husband. You see that? So when a black woman says, I don't need a man, that is a reaction to the reality that I may not get a man.
So why not preach? Because I understood, you're obviously against interracial relations when it comes to black men with black women. With white women.
With all women, you should only be with the black woman.
And you will say, well, if you can't find a good woman in America, there's
somewhere else.
In Africa.
Absolutely.
So why not teach that same rhetoric to our women? Like, if you feel
I tell sisters all the time, go to Africa. So I know sisters who marry. I just spoke with a sister. She invited me to the wedding. She just married a brother from the continent.
So, but instead of saying they will never get married,
I'll take sisters to Africa who married brothers they met in Africa.
Right.
So yeah,
I think there's plenty. I think there's obviously plenty of black men and black women.
So and what I also tell black women, if you're going to go get you an African man from the continent,
right,
you're going to have to understand that the way in which you talk to black men in America will not be tolerated over there.
Mm-hmm. Why the fuck is it tolerated? It's not tolerated here. That's what we're trying to tell them.
Well, over here, I want to say this to us though. Because we try to act like the way sisters treat us doesn't have a history that we are not at least partly responsible for. Let's be honest. The black woman has had to hold down the black house by herself, although imperfectly. She's had to do it by herself since the mass incarceration of black males began in the 1970s. You understand me? Most of our children are raised by a single mother right now. And it has been that way for about 50 years. So when a sister says, I don't need a man, because she couldn't find one strong enough to hold her down. Or when you meet a woman and you say, sister, I'm strong enough to be your man. You ain't got to work or you ain't got to pay the bills or whatever. Pull back. I got you. And she can't do it because all the other men before you who disappointed her. So what I'm saying is, black men, we got to be patient with our women because we created that personality. We created that, and then we want to act like we didn't play a role.
We have to be held accountable for their poor selection.
No, you have to be held accountable. No, you have to be held accountable because they have a poor selection. See, what you're saying, you're selecting a poor mate. And what I'm saying is they don't have much to select one, so of course she's going to end up with a poor mate. And why is she going to end up with a poor mate? Because we as black men are not raising black boys to be the men that our women need. We are not. They out there killing themselves right now. What we doing about it? Unemployed black males, what we doing about it? Pants sagging, weed smoking, what we doing about it? Black men are not raising black boys to be the men our community needs. That is 100% our fault. What I'm saying is she got a right to be angry with us. She got a right to be angry with us.
I understand
we have not been on our job as black men. If the men are the providers, what have we been providing for our community? I'm not speaking you individually.
Yes.
Because you may be a damn good father. You may be a damn good father. You may be a damn good father. But guess what? What are we doing for the community? What are we doing for the children who don't have a father? You don't think the black woman got a right to be angry when she's been raising 2/3 of the kids by herself for 50 years? And the minute she raised her voice, we say she's not humble enough? She had to become masculine to survive the rape, the molestation, the domestic abuse. Are you telling me you can't see how we created that?
I understand that, but she needs to be more selective.
If we was loving our women and taking care of our women, do you think she would be like that? That personality has a history.
If she's picking Pookie and Ray Ray instead of
you're making her a scapegoat.
No, she's picking a scapegoat.
No.
There's good quality men that they ignore.
Why she even got it? Why is there even a Pookie in the selection?
You gotta ask her that.
No. I'm gonna tell you why there's a Pookie in the selection.
Why?
Because black men have abandoned black boys and have allowed social media, white media, athletes, and rappers to raise them. That's why she with Pookie. If we never allowed Pookie to develop, she would not have a Pookie. If we're going to be men, the first thing we got to do is take responsibility for why our women feel the way they feel.
I can hear that.
I'm not saying that they're right to disrespect, because even if a woman disrespects me, right, that still don't give me a right to disrespect her, because she's still the queen of the community. Even if she's not acting like it, I'm going to give her that respect. But when I hear brothers talk like this discourse we having now, we act like we don't understand.
No,
there's reasons for that shit.
I do understand. Women are so valuable. You get what I'm saying? Like, I think women ground men and help them, propel to the next level. I think men get further in life with a woman, right? But if I'm a hardworking man, but I'm only looked at as resources, and then she's ready to jump on Tom, Dick, and Harry because he got flash, he's shining a little bit more, his access to money is quicker than mine. It's kind of hard to have that.
Well, no, one, I agree with you, but that's not all sisters.
No, it's not.
If you're constantly running into that type of woman, then the problem is you, because you're attracting a certain low vibrational energy. Why
not have that same energy for women? You just again, you held the man responsible. Because we having a conversation
as men.
Yeah,
I got plenty of interviews with all women where I check them too.
All right,
but as a man, you should not be concerned about what I say to them. No. As men, we should be concerned of what we're going to do to produce a better generation of black males for tomorrow. That's the only, that is where we should be focused.
Women bring the choice of life, right? We understand that, right? I can't have a child unless a woman agrees.
And she can't carry one if you didn't put it in her.
I agree with that 100% too, right? But whether or not, if you want that child or not, she can still make that decision. It's only up to her.
If you don't put a seed in her, nothing else happens. And no woman can make you put a seed in her. So the original act was the responsibility of a man.
True. I mean,
all right. So did black men willingly leave the household, or was it the system that was?
It was systemic.
All right. So how, if we giving them grace for them having to do it without us, but it wasn't our fault, how are we not getting that same grace and that same respect?
I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why. Because black men, as the leaders of the community, now
we can't be leaders.
Here's the question we got to make. Here's the question. Because the argument y'all make, feeds into the feminist agenda.
Okay,
it's an argument that says I don't want the responsibility.
I'm a leader.
I don't want to fix shit. Right? I'm gonna fall back and let her run everything. That's what the feminists tell. They say, look at them making excuses for why they can't be better men, making excuses for why they can't make better men. You understand? Your argument feeds the feminist narrative. That's dangerous.
That's not what we're making excuses for.
I'm saying I am the better man, but I shouldn't be held responsible because you wanted to choose a Pookie and a Ray Ray. That's not me. I work too hard in my life.
And I'm gonna go back to what I said. Pookie and Ray Ray shouldn't exist. And the only reason why Pookie and Ray Ray exist because we're not in the community making those boys the men they need to be.
What's up, family? You already know what it is. Breakdown Friday, Joseph Ward, Super Patrick, Professor Carl Tone Jones. We are here breaking down the interview with Dr. Umar Johnson on the Daily Wrap-Up Crew podcast. And they had a very interesting conversation. It was a long conversation. So you just saw a clip of the part 2. It was 2 parts. So that was a clip of part 2, where the interview went more into the conflict of the relationship between the black men and the black women. You know, we've talked about that extensively on this channel. A lot of the topics that were talked about throughout the full interview, we have talked about on this channel, but this is the part of the interview that pretty much set the internet on fire. I know when I first saw the pairing of Dr. Umar with the Daily Wrap-Up Crew, I'm not even gonna lie, my first first thought was like, oh man, it's not a good matchup. This is not a good matchup. Um, I haven't extensively watched their podcast, but I watched enough of the clips and shorts of the podcast to see how they move. And I have watched shows. So I understand how they get down, and I also understand how Umar get down. So I was like, oh, this not gonna be a good pairing. Because I was thinking, especially if they get into the interview, to the relationship thing that was gonna get washed, and But some of the things that set the internet on fire were the responses that Umar was giving to a lot of their questions. And we're going to break those things down. We're going to break those things down because we want to make sure that we are a part of the true repairing of the Black family, of Black men and Black women. Hey, Black women, we need each other. We need you. All right. So we want to make sure we are part of fixing the issue. That's why we want to break these things down. So start with you, PC. Overall, what are just your overall thoughts about the interview and the pairing between Umar and the Daily Wrap Up crew, especially the clip that we saw.
Well, I thought uh, similar to you. I thought that they would be overmatched because when you talk to a person with the personality as big as Umar, one of the things you have to do is you have to be able to match his energy, or at least counter it. And there were times where I felt like he was sunning those young brothers during the interview. And when somebody, and first of all, let me just say this. I don't think there's ever a time where you should be talking over somebody when they're countering the point of yours. I just don't. I think it's unprofessional, it's uncouth, and basically, we have a word for that in Philly. We used to when we grew up with it. It's called sounding on somebody. And when you sounding on somebody, it's basically saying that I'm gonna be bigger and tougher than you, so it don't matter what you say. Chris Rock used to have a joke that said, "Can you beat my ass?" So we're gonna, and that's kind of the energy that was presented in the interview. And I felt like those brothers, just verbatim, like verbally speaking, they had some good points to counter. They had some good points to counter, and I thought that Umar was able to utilize his guile, his experience in being in these arenas to navigate the conversation so that anytime they box him into a corner, he can move the goalpost. And I felt the goalpost got moved a lot on this conversation. And I thought that, and I always say this, it's disrespectful to pander to anybody you care about. And I felt like the interview was about pandering to the emotions of Black women without dealing with how dangerous it is to deal with the consequences that come from that type of pandering in the position it puts Black women in. Because you're telling Black women basically they're not responsible for the decisions they make. They're not responsible for the predicaments they find themselves in. What you're basically telling them is that they have the accountability of children. And if they have the accountability of children, then you don't listen to children when it comes to running a house. You don't listen to children when it comes to running a community. You don't take direction from children when it comes to running a nation. In other words, children are to be seen and not heard in a lot of cases. So you're basically telling women they're to be seen and not heard. We're going to put you up on this pedestal. We're going to cater to you. We're going to give you everything, but you don't have any say-so in how that action. I feel like that's very disrespectful to Black women.
All right.
And Pat, disingenuous to Black men.
Right. Pat, it's your first time seeing this clip. What are your thoughts?
I think we might have should have clipped that up and taken it point by point.
I was writing stuff down.
Because I was trying to write, but it was so much going on, I couldn't keep up with my own thoughts.
I was writing.
I agree with what PC said. I thought I wouldn't even say he used his guile and his skill. He used his status in their deference to not allow them to speak. He kept talking over them, knowing and understanding that they were going to back down, probably because in the pre-show conversations they were backing down.
Mhm.
And so I think when the cameras turned on, it was just a continuation. He probably allowed he probably set himself up as the elder before the show even started, and then when the show started, instead of playing the role of the elder, he played the role of the bully. Because he didn't let them say nothing. And if you tune him out and just listen to what they were trying to say, they were actually countering all of his points very well. They
They
just
just
weren't
couldn't follow
allowed.
up on it.
Yeah, and he was not following up on it. And I think Umar's not a dummy. The man is intelligent. He understood that he didn't want the conversation that they were trying to have. Because that conversation wouldn't have been beneficial to any of his talking points. So, but I do think that's a necessary conversation. But it was a frustrating interview. I like you, Joe. When y'all first told me about it, I was like, that don't even make sense. Like, where's their elder, their mentor, there's somebody, big bro, somebody to pull them to the side and be like, yo, why are y'all bringing this dude on here?
Mhm.
Like, this is not one. His audience is not going to like you. Period. That's that. So there's no cross pollination happening here. And two, your audience is not going to like him. So not only are you not going to gain viewers by having Umar on your platform, because of the nature of your platform, you're going to potentially lose viewers by having Umar on your platform. If he suns you bad enough, or if it goes in a way that is not to your favor, there's literally no upside for any black manosphere / red pill content creator to have Umar Johnson on their channel. There's no upside to it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
not even getting into his points, just getting into the fact that in this particular situation, there isn't even any benefit to having him on, and then he gets on and he does what he did. He doesn't impart wisdom. It doesn't sound like it was a constructive dialogue. It doesn't sound like there were any solutions presented. He did a lot of chastising black men without doing any real at least in that clip, any real analysis of the causation of the problem, except to admit that it is systemic. But then to double back and say, but even though it's systemic, tough shit. Like it's like what does anybody get out of that outside of either feeling good if you are a woman that agrees with that, or being annoyed if you're a man or a woman that understands that you're a grown ass adult. Like, what does this interview do to progress the cause? And that goes back into the conversation about leadership that we're gonna get into later, and a bunch of other things. So my first impression is even worse than what I thought it was. That whole segment, you know, um, I flushed something down the toilet earlier this morning that had more value than that.